USB. Okay. All right. Now we should eventually hear something. Oh, there we go. All right. Good. Okay, so that's working. That's live. Let me hit share. Facebook. Because I know our number one fan will want to be there.
He's already texting me.
Create post.
Are you friends with him on Facebook now?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm surprised he didn't write something to me today because the Cowboys played so bad.
Did they? They lost. That's right. They lost at the last minute. Tight.
Yeah, and they were winning all the way up until the very end, and then they said, "You know what? Winning's overrated." About the Eagles.
Well, we'll get into that in a second.
Yes, we will. Robert Spear, public. Not album. All right, let me just tag.
Actually, I'm going to put that in.
Your Team Sucks podcast and you. All right. I just posted it. I just tagged you and Your Team Sucks in it. It came from my account. So that's going. I don't need this up this big. And I don't know if you saw, I wrote a different opening. Oh, you're on there.
Yeah.
So we can, it's showing up to me as Anonymous Wolverine.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, when I guess if you don't have a Gmail account signing in, sometimes it makes up weird names and stuff for you, whatever. But whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I have a Gmail, but I don't use it at all.
Some setting. Let me see. Oh. It's weird when you are not talking, it's very quiet. And it feels like something is wrong, but then when you start talking, then it's fine. So I'm like, it's just a little different than normal. So it's just like throwing me for a loop. All right, are you ready?
That would actually be a good thing, though. I mean, if you're
maybe
you're not hearing crackling and stuff like that, that's probably good.
Yeah, I agree. All right, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready to go.
All right, so we got the YouTube going, so I'm going to hit record here on Audacity, and then we can start. Oh, I don't have the sound, the music, whatever. We'll just get into it. All right, here we go.
Do you want me to share that on Facebook at all? Or?
Yeah, if you want to. You can repost it.
Actually, you know what? I should be able to make this different. All right. So.
Okay, let's do it. I said short C. Huh, interesting. Okay, whatever. All right, you get to open up the show today. So I hit record. Go ahead, have at it.
So, how does the postseason feel?
Well, the Cowboys have already packed their bags and are on their way to the Bahamas. So it feels wonderful.
Yeah, you're not getting a sixth ring this year?
No, next year's our year, 2025. 2025 is the year of the Cowboys.
I've heard that before. In fact, I hear it every year since VHS was popular.
Yes, but
let's get the show started.
Let's get the show started. Oh, hello everybody, and welcome to Your Team Sucks, S-U-X, the podcast where football rivalries are at their finest and tempers are always flaring, especially by Rob, because the Cowboys really wanted to show that they could suck really bad this year. Trust me, I've got a lot to say about America's team.
And I'm Mike. I'm the one and only Eagles fanatic who's here to remind you that I root for two teams every week, except this week. The Eagles, I actually wanted them to lose this week. And whoever is playing the Cowboys, I actually wanted them to win the week. You see, I was hoping that both teams would have worse draft picks. Not that they're going to do anything, and, Jerry and the Giants will find ways to screw it up.
No, we sure
However, I figured that the lower that you pick, the less of a chance of that happening. So with the Eagles having a meaningless game today, I figured that screwing over the Giants for the draft pick would have been good. And the Cowboys winning would only increase, since they were already out of the playoffs, would only increase their draft pick to a higher slot to make them less likely to get somebody meaningful. Anyways, we're going to break down the latest games. Start off with good natured trash talk and make sure everyone knows how incredible that the Eagles are.
Buckle up, because we're diving deep into the rivalries, the stats. I got a great game from a January matchup and everything in between. Whether you're wearing silver and blue or mourning and wearing all black like me, we promise that you'll get an earful.
Yes, and remember, this is all in good fun. Rob did finally get to have his fun a couple weeks ago. It was very, very short-lived. As we will get into,
so short-lived.
It did not go well when they played the Eagles the next week.
Oh, God. We ended on a great 2-week losing streak, so that's wonderful. Go Cowboys.
Yes. Yeah. So let's get into it. This is Your Team Sucks.
And before I start to cry, actually, I just I washed my hands of the season. I'm done. Whatever. Check us out here's where all the places you can find us. Check us out on YouTube at Your Team Sucks, all one word. I think Your Team Sucks Pod, actually. Instagram, Your Team Sucks Pod, and on Facebook, Your Team Sucks Podcast. Type all that in. You'll find our group. And we need 20 more people to follow us on Facebook, so please do that. And Mike, you can tell us all the other stuff.
Yeah, so obviously you can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Radio, and Amazon for now. But yeah, so as Rob was saying, we do need your help. Rate us whenever you listen. The more ratings, the better it is for us. All about those algorithms. So go to YouTube and follow us there. Now for the fun stuff.
So, first thing, I talked about this probably 2 weeks ago as well. The Dallas Cowboy fan pages on Facebook are just flat out ridiculous. I don't know. I don't follow any of the Eagles ones. I don't know how bad they are.
They're bad.
Okay. But it's like constantly posts about Ezekiel Elliott holding out for more money. He got let go, and this post is still going. Like, it keeps coming back around.
Did he actually so they actually did.
Yes, and he got cut before this game, and I have the quote from Jerry Jones, which is so BS. It's not even funny. Cowboys owner and general manager Jerry Jones released the following statement on the release of Elliott. Out of respect and appreciation for Zeke and wanting to provide him with an opportunity to pursue any potential playoff participation possible, we are releasing him from the Cowboys roster today. I don't buy that even a little bit. I think he did nothing for the team since he was back. And I think they were just like, we're going to save our money and not pay you for the last week.
Yeah, very well could be that. The last thing that I had seen was, and I don't know if this is true, but Zeke said, that he's ready for to sign with the Eagles and provide some running back depth for him.
Yeah, I did hear that as well. That was all over the Cowboys thing, so I don't know if that's true or not.
I think Jeffrey Lurie looked at that and said, "Nah, we good."
Yeah, I mean, like this year, he had in 15 games played 74 carries, so he only touched the ball 74 times. He rushed for 226 yards, which is nothing, like horrible. In 2023 with New England, he rushed for 642 yards. His last year in Dallas, he rushed for 876 yards. And
I see a trend.
Yeah, do you see that trend?
It's like a hill, but it's steep to the point where at one point he was kind of running downhill a little bit. Then he tripped over a rock, and now he's somersaulting.
He's just falling down the hill now. Yeah, from 2016 to 2021, he did really well. He was a really good running back. 1,600 yards, 983 yards, 1,400 yards, 1,300 yards, 979 yards, and 1,002 yards in 2021. But then from then on out, it was this constant falling down of the hill. Like even
I mean, sorry to interrupt. No, what I will say is that as productive as some of the years have been, and there have been a couple of good ones, 2, maybe 3 pretty decent ones, for when he was drafted and for what he was paid and the capital that was spent, I still feel like Zeke overall was a disappointment for the Cowboys. I don't know if you agree or not.
I think yes, also because it came down to the Cowboys' performance during those years as well.
Sure.
Like, we had a good running back. We had different good quarterbacks. You know, Tony Romo was in there for half of these years. He was a solid quarterback. We had good wide receivers around him. I think towards the end there, they started to pay him too much, and then he started to perform too little. You know, like the first 4 years, I'm guessing he was on his rookie contract, and he was doing a phenomenal job. And then it seems like after he got his payday, his performance went down. And then to the point where in 2022, they just said, forget it. Like, he looked really bad in 2022.
Yes.
To the point that his backup, which the year before the backup looked bad, he was looking phenomenal. And then, then he had a great year in 2023, and then he went to higher ground. I think the Cowboys running back this year, Rico Dowdle, is coming around. Hopefully he can continue to improve, and he'll be a very good running back next year.
I mean, Dallas has a lot of problems. Running back, if it's one of them, it's pretty low on the totem pole. I don't think that Dallas can pin their hat on running back being a part of the reason that this year wasn't successful.
Right. But the first half of the year, the running back situation was bad. Rico couldn't do anything. Ezekiel wasn't even getting in the games. So it was like, why was Zeke the big trade that Jerry Jones was bragging about, and then he doesn't even play? So,
again, I mean, it goes back to it's not that far off from how I saw the season going. When I was looking at free agency and watching it unfold and watching Dallas, who just got manhandled by Green Bay and clearly were not a championship contending team, to watch them lose a significant amount of decent players, and not replenish them.
Not replenish them at all. No, they did nothing in the offseason to replenish the big losses that they had. And
I'm not surprised that this season went the way that it did for them.
No, and I was expecting it also, and it was also even more frustrating because Jerry was like, "Oh no, we're fine," and I'm like, "How are we fine when we lost in the first round of the playoffs last year, and then don't do anything when those players leave to get better how are we fine? So, yeah. So
I don't know what Jerry was. I mean, I don't know if Jerry had an ulterior motive, saying like we're trying to get out of cap hell this year, or we know that we have to pay some of our players a good amount of money, and if we can save this year, it positions us better for years in the future, and we're just going to sell a bill of goods to the team, or if Jerry is that delusional to where he thought that even losing these players, that he had enough enough other players, which to me, Jerry being who he is, I kind of almost feel like Jerry said how he felt, that he thought they were good enough.
And I think that's the problem too, because I feel
yes, it's not a problem for me.
No, not a problem for you at all. You're happy. You love Jerry's naive way of thinking and thinking that that they're a good team and whatever. But yeah, he felt when you were saying maybe he thought like we'll just tank this season, don't tell anybody, and just prepare for next season. I think it was more the second where he felt that his team was good enough. Like, hey, we made it. We were the best team in the NFC East last year. We'll be fine. It's not a big deal. And I think that's the downfall. Is that was his thinking was, no, we're going to be great again. And then we weren't. So, Jay Parr is in the chat with us. He says,
"Oh, Jay, you made it."
He made it. He said, "Cold beer and podcast on a Sunday night don't get any better than this," and that is true.
Mine is extra cold because I have my favorite.
You have your super koozie on the outside of it there.
My Yeti koozie.
Yeti koozie to keep it extra cold. Yeah. So that's one of the things that constantly is going around the Facebook. Cowboys Facebook sphere, and the other one that's now circulating a lot now is that Aaron Rodgers wants to come to the Cowboys.
Oh, that would be great!
Yeah.
Is he going to back up Dak, or is he going to?
I think him and Zeke are just going to create their own team together. Just two old guys who still want to keep playing but can't do anything. No, I think. I don't know. I don't know I don't even read the articles, and then it's followed up. The chat below it is just filled up with a whole bunch of nonsense. Some of which you can't even understand. But
he can't start over Dak.
No,
he's not better than Dak.
He's not better than Dak.
And his ego will not allow him to be a backup.
Yeah. I don't
know where that's coming from.
Yeah, Jay just said Rodgers is done. So I have a feeling we won't be seeing Aaron Rodgers in any NFL uniform next year. I would
agree with that. I could see him.
I think he's going to go surfing in the first ever flat Earth surfing off the edge of the Earth contest.
Is he one of those?
Oh yeah, he's a flat earther. He's got some very interesting.
I know he had some interesting things. There was somebody that was trying to explain to me how the Earth could still be flat based off of some rotating coin, and it just kind of moving so fast that you couldn't fall off because it rotates too fast to catch you or something. And whatever.
You said you got it, dude. Sure, whatever you want to believe.
I like look, you search long enough on the internet and
you're gonna find
some scientific things.
All you have to do is just take one of those satellite pictures that clearly shows an arc to the Earth, and you'll be proven wrong. But those pictures are all fake, so whatever. So yeah, I do not want Rodgers. He wouldn't be a good backup. I feel he's too egotistical to be a backup.
Yes.
I don't even know if he would bring anything good to Dak. Like, not that Dak is great, but does Dak at this point need a mentor of an Aaron Rodgers type status? I don't
know. Dak in him of himself, I guess would be the word, is a veteran now as well. Dak's been in the league about 8 years, right?
Yeah.
I don't think that there's I don't think you can mentor a 7 or 8 year veteran, can you?
Right. Like at that point, like what I feel Dak is who Dak is at this point. You know, even like Jalen Hurts, I feel Jalen Hurts is who Jalen Hurts is at this point.
Like, yeah, Jalen Hurts. I mean, both of them can obviously improve their game, but I don't think that bringing someone in is going to improve a backup quarterback. Now,
right.
Coordinator,
yeah,
would certainly change things.
If he wants to be a coach or a coordinator, that would be a whole different story. I think there's I don't want to say better. I think he would be. Jay says that the Cowboys don't need him. I think he would make a good coordinator anywhere he goes. So I would like to see him try to be a coordinator somewhere, but it's tough.
Do you think that he would do? Do you think he relates to the players? Do you think he relates to the team? Do you think that his style, his communication? I mean, he's done well with some of the receivers. He's recruited some of the receivers. Maybe it does work. I don't know. I never even kind of considered Rodgers as a potential coordinator.
Yeah, it would be interesting to find out from the Jets players how he is in the locker room because of him being so much older. If he can get along with the players and if he can still relate to them, I think he would be a good coordinator. I think he'll probably go for the bigger money and become a analyst for game day analyst or something like that because like you have to even like Jason Kelsey said it you know, even as a coach, you have to love being there because you're putting in the hours, many like 100 hours a week, you know, 100, 200 hours a week, whatever. Even as a coach, you know, we had a couple of coaches I told you before who like taught or who lived in our school district. And the kids were like, yeah, during football season, we don't see dad. Like he's gone before we leave for school and he doesn't get home till 9 o'clock at night every night. So you have to love it, which I'm sure he does, but you have to love it to be able to do all that. And you have to have aspirations to be a head coach to work your way up when you're the status of like an Aaron Rodgers where you could be on TV one day a week. Go hang out, watch the practices for a little while all week long. Make sure you memorize all the players' names, and then just talk for 3 hours, and then get paid more money than you would as a quarterbacks coach or an offensive coordinator. So I can see him going more for the money and going more for the fame and being on TV and whatever. So
there was times when they talked about him retiring from football and being in consideration to take over from Trebek for Jeopardy.
Oh, for Jeopardy?
Yeah.
That would be
He hosted a couple times or something.
Okay.
He'd be very good at it, or I don't know.
I don't know. That's pretty funny. So, so those are the things that have been floating around the Facebook Cowboys' sphere. Anything ridiculous like that going around the Eagles Facebook pages, or is it just all about how amazing you guys are and how you're going to win the Super Bowl and how coach of the year and quarterback of the year and
I think he's nailed the head.
I think
all that. No, I don't know. I actually, to be honest, on purpose, I'm not in any threads. I don't pay attention to those things. I don't even listen to sports talk all that often. I think it's kind of more on the ridiculous side. I'll try to catch a couple articles, but a lot of it is just catching up on the text thread with buddies and reading some articles here and there that I come across. But no, I mean, really, I think that everything is I think that this week obviously the big story for the Eagles was, do you let Saquon go for the record or do you sit him?
Right.
So he had over 2,000 yards.
He did.
He was 100
almost
yards
exactly
shy
100 yards shy. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly 100 yards away from breaking Eric Dickerson's record. There was a lot of talk about how prestigious the record was, how great it is, how he deserves it. there was a lot of talk about him having an extra game to do it. Does that make it less less valuable?
Less
I guess
valuable,
does that water it down?
We'll have the asterisk next to it with the asterisk 17 games.
Right. But the thing that I always kind of think about is we're talking about Eric Dickerson and the his record and how prestigious it is and whatnot. Nobody's talking about the fact that his should have an asterisk next to it because O.J. Simpson had 2,000 yards or close to it, if not in 14 games.
In 14 games, yeah.
Yeah, so yards per game is probably the most valuable, in my opinion, on something like that. The other thing is if the Eagles were going to do it, they took Saquon out with a lot of meat left on the bone in that game against the Cowboys once he broke 2,000 yards.
Right.
Once he broke 2,000 yards, they congratulated him, gave him his flowers, and Nick told him, get out.
Yeah, and the Cowboys made it easy, too. They just, opened up the holes for him and said, here, run left this one. Now run right, yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was interesting because he was getting stopped pretty consistently in the first half, but that's been the way that Saquon has gotten most of his yards. It's the second half he's worn teams down. He's done it, and the offensive line, who has 3 linemen, made the Pro Bowl.
Yeah,
and and their fourth was a snub. That made the Pro Bowl. So. Yeah, it was a good combination that led to it. But if the record was meaningful, if the record was the end all be all, there would have been no reason for them to take him out of the Dallas game.
Right.
They could have piled on in that Dallas game to make it that much easier to go against the Giants. So I felt like once he got the 2,000 yards, that's what they were going for him, and the intention was to not let him play. I think he was okay with it. The Eagles had a bye week 5, so they've been grinding for 12 straight weeks.
Yeah.
They needed a second bye, and since they were getting a first round bye in the playoffs, they just missed that. The game that's starting in from now is going to decide that.
I know that's going to be crazy. That's going to be so awesome to watch.
Yeah,
we can.
I actually think Minnesota takes that.
Do you really? I hope not, because Detroit's had it. So we're talking about the Minnesota-Detroit game for those of you who, by the time you watch this or whatever, for everybody except for Jay, who's watching us live right now. Detroit had first place all season long, but now Minnesota had fought back and also has 13 wins, just like Detroit does. And whoever wins this game will become the number 1 team in the NFC North, and
right, and that's the only team that gets the first
round bye. Yeah,
and the other falls all the way to 5th,
all the way to 5, which is crazy. We can talk about
they have
St. Brown.
So
yeah,
you go from the number 1 seed and hosting a playoff, hosting every playoff game through the NFC for as long as you make it, to the number 5 seed, having to play that week and having to go on the road to play that week.
Yeah.
With 3 losses.
Yeah, you have 13 wins, and you're going to be on the road probably the whole time, unless somehow the 1 and 2 seeds both lose. You're going to be on the road the whole time.
You need the 1, 2, 3, and 4 seed to lose.
Okay. Yeah. Would they play? Because they're playing. They would play the 4 seed in the first round.
Right.
And then the winner of that would go on to play the 1 seed, right?
Right.
Right. So they would need, So they would.
The only way that it would work is if unless the 7 knocks off the 1. No, unless they would play the 1 seed. So unless 7 knocked off the 2,
and 6
knocked off
the
3, or like a 6 or a 7 would need to
advance.
Is it possible? Has it happened?
Sure.
Yeah, but. Yeah, it's a big game.
It's a big game. Yeah, it's a huge game. So I'm excited about that game because Detroit has been doing great all year. I mean, both of them have, and I feel Minnesota's been quietly I think they're the quietest team to 13 wins that I can ever think of.
Yeah, a lot of their wins were like one-win games, and everybody just kind of talked about Detroit as the darling team, the team that was there last year that just missed out and started out. The difference was that Detroit was dominating all year.
Right.
Like they were
Mm-hmm.
running up the score. They were winning by double digits week in and week out. And Minnesota was barely squeaking by, kind of lucking out in a lot of different games. So nobody really took them serious. Now the tables have turned a little bit because it seems that Detroit's gotten decimated by injuries.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden they're the teams that's playing tight games and really struggling. And Minnesota seems to have found their stride a little bit, and they're winning by a little bit more of a margin now. So yeah,
Yeah, so that could be crazy. Whoever loses that, and I don't know if you saw St. Brown, wide receiver for Detroit, said that the NFL playoff system is stupid, because the fact that he said I forget exactly how your division should determine that you make it into the playoffs. So the 4 division winners should make it into the playoffs, but
but
then
the seeding should be based off of record.
seeding should be based off of record. Yeah, which I can see that, because even like if you look at the NFC West or South, like the team that's winning this year, at least they're all above 500.
Right.
But
Yeah, they would. Washington would actually probably be. I mean, the way that would work out this year is, I don't know if the Eagles would take the 2 seed or the 3 seed. It depends on how that plays out. But either way, it would be the winner of this game would be the 1, and either the loser would either be 2 or 3, with the Eagles being the other one. And I believe Washington would then be 4th.
yeah,
After Green Bay lost, they may end up being 5th or 6th or something. But yeah, I mean, it would those 2 division winners would be pretty much lower seeds. I mean, I didn't love the expansion to 7 teams with only 1 bye.
right.
To be honest, I like the 6 teams in, but I'm the old man yelling at clouds that hates change. So
um, and I can also think back to the years when teams that won the division with a losing record, because
yes,
the division was so bad. And I remember people were complaining about that.
I remember they won the division with a losing record, played an exceptional Drew Brees led Seattle played an exceptional Drew Brees led Saints team. And I'm in this fantasy football playoff league, and 2nd or 3rd pick overall. I was running up there to grab Drew Brees, thinking that he was going to take me to
the championship.
He had a chance to go to the Super Bowl and pile up points and win the championship for me. And when he got knocked out in the first round, I was like, wow, this is like the 2nd game of the playoffs, and
I am done.
Up my paper, and I am done.
I am out of here. Yeah, so I agree with him in that fact that sometimes like the division winners are really bad, but does it suck for either Minnesota or Detroit to have to go on the road and play their first game if whoever loses this matchup, on the road? Yes, but if you're a good team, you're going to win regardless if you're home or away. Is it more fun to win at home? Sure. I'm not saying it's not. But it would also be nice to get, although they're both dome teams, it doesn't matter. I was going to say to get out of the cold for a little bit. If you're going to Tampa Bay or to whoever wound up winning the South, I think Falcons won the South.
No, Tampa Bay
won the South. Yeah. So, and Jay wrote some things about the Eagles, and he retracted them, and he just wrote the Vikings are a good team. So, yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens and whatever. And yes, I mean, even in the high school sports that I coach, people complain about, oh, I'm better than this team and I have to travel and whatever, and I should have got another home game. But, I mean, this is the way the system's been. The system's been this way. for a reason. It gives you, and it just stinks that this year the NFC North is so good that there's 3 teams, and 2 of which should have home games because their records are so good, but only one of them is going to get it because the other 3 home games are all done by the division winners. So
yes,
I think we should just allow everybody into the playoffs, and then the top records all get home games, and then that way the Cowboys can keep playing in the playoffs. But
you want all 32 teams in there?
Yeah, all 32 teams. It's kind of like the NHL playoffs. Like almost everybody. It's like 2 teams that don't make the NHL playoffs.
Yeah.
But let's recap. Not that there's much to recap, but there was a game 2 weeks ago. I think the Eagles, I forget who they played 2 weeks ago. Oh, wait, I remember. The Cowboys. So we don't really, you can recap it better because they won, but the game.
You know what? It's weird. And again, it has something to do with the fact that it was such a over Christmas and New Year's and then all the holidays. It just all the days just seem to run together and everything.
Yeah,
I'm trying to remember that game. Really, I remember it being a little bit tight. Obviously, I know the fact that we had Kenny Pickett start the game,
right?
Because Hurts was still in concussion protocol,
yes,
which was pretty shocking to all of us.
Mm-hmm.
But it was 2 backup quarterbacks. We still felt, especially at home, that we were in a pretty decent position to squeak out a win on that game.
So the first
the
first 2 I just remember by halftime, forget about it. But the first 2 drives, the Cowboys were driving down. They were doing well, but they.
Was one like a turnover?
Yeah, there was a turnover. So first quarter, Cowboys had a touchdown. Oh, Cooper Rush threw 2 touchdowns in the first quarter, one to the Eagles and one to the Cowboys.
Okay, that's right. The touchdown, the interception return was
it was a 69-yard.
Gardner Johnson.
Yes. So the Cowboys were driving. They were doing a good job, and this is what I was angry about because Jay says that the Packers may make it difficult for the Eagles next week. So
depends. Jordan Love got hurt. Christian Watson got hurt.
Yeah.
But it's the playoffs. There's not going to be there shouldn't be any easy outs.
No, not at all. But back to this game. The Cowboys needed to score early before your backup quarterback figured out the system because this was the first week that he had all the snaps in practice.
Yeah.
And so I knew we had if we jumped on him early, if we were able to score early and defense was able to shake him a little bit early, the Cowboys could have won this game. But instead, we drove down the field and then Cooper Rush just says, "Wait, what color jersey are my guys wearing? I think it's that one over there." And it went right into a guy with an eagle on his shoulder. And Gardner Johnson ran it all the way back for 69 yards for an interception. And he was wide open. No wonder why, because he's the wrong guy. Then
so that was the first touchdown. So that made it 7-0.
7-0. Yeah. So then the next drive, the Cowboys drive down, and they actually do score a touchdown. Jalen Tolbert, 4-yard pass from Cooper Rush. So Cooper Rush throws 2 touchdowns in the first quarter. It's tied up 7-7. So I'm like, okay, this is good. And then from there,
meanwhile, Pickett hasn't touched the ball yet.
No.
Second quarter.
yeah. That first drive that ended with an interception. The Cowboys had it for 5 or 6 minutes. Then they had another 5 or 6 minute drive. So they scored a touchdown at 5:38 left in the first quarter. So we had the ball, except for the interception, the entire first quarter. And so then Pickett gets it, and he had the last 5 minutes, whatever, the first quarter. Then he scores a touchdown with 6:38 to go in the second quarter.
So
Devontae
I think they
Smith
traded a couple 3-and-outs, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they went back and forth. But then it was also now the Cowboys weren't moving the ball then. And that's where I was like, oh, here it goes, because we had those 2 long drives where we were able to move the ball, and we only got 1 touchdown out of it. Then there was a lot of 3-and-outs and a lot of back and forths, and a lot of Cowboys could move the ball between the 30 and the 30 and whatever. But then you guys got a touchdown with 6:38 left. Devontae Smith had a 22-yard pass from Kenny Pickett, and I'm pretty sure he was like pretty wide open apart. Then with 1 minute and 55 seconds left, you guys kick a field goal to go up 17-7. And then with no time left on the clock, a Kenny Pickett 1-yard run to go up 24-7. So the Cowboys...
And just going through that, I'm sorry to interrupt. So
no, go ahead, yeah.
Now you're jarring my memory. So, so the Devontae was a beautiful pass. I remember that. That was nice. Then the Eagles defense stopped them. The Eagles really started to tighten things up on the defensive end. That happened a lot this year, where the Eagles defense could be had a little bit in the first drive or two, and then all of a sudden something clicks and the defense just they either get a turnover or hold to a field goal, or something happens. They only give up 7 or 10 points, and maybe they score a field goal or something. They may be down ever so slightly. The offense starts to find their way, and the defense all of a sudden like clamps up, and it's they basically are like an anaconda strangling.
Yeah,
and they just kind of put their the arms around or whatever it is, and squeeze the life out of a team.
And it was funny, on the game today they were talking, and it was something that we talked about early on this season, where we were talking about how do teams react to new coordinators and things like that. And they were saying this Dallas was in it in the first quarter, Jay says. Your Eagles now, the first half of the season, their defense wasn't doing all the stuff that they're doing now, but now they really understand your defense coordinator and are really showing how good their defense can be now. And like you said, it may not be in the first quarter, but as the game goes on, the defense, your coordinator figures out what the other team's doing, and he calls different plays instead in different situations, and your defense is doing a really, really good job of reacting, of recovering, of just playing lights out defense and saying, yeah, we're done letting you do things. We're gonna show you that you can't do things. You can't run, you can't pass, you can't score, and we're just gonna shut you down. And it's good. I mean, that answers our question from the beginning of the season, which was, it takes about a half a season for a team to figure out a new coordinator. And now you guys figured it out.
Getting back to the game real quick. So I remember the touchdown. I don't remember the field goal that well. I guess we forced like a 3-and-out and ended up with a field goal.
Yeah, I think
a 10-point lead.
I think we might have even gone for it at one point and were stopped on fourth or whatever.
Gone for it and stopped. Right. Okay, that makes sense. You went for it right around the 50 and stopped, and then we got 20 yards or something and kicked the field goal. And then we're up 10, feeling okay, but Dallas is getting the ball back, and I don't remember. The Eagles might have gotten the ball to start the second half. Yeah, the Eagles get the ball to start the second half. So we're like, okay, even if they score, we're still up 3 and we're getting the ball back. But instead what ends up happening is that's when the Cowboys ended up fumbling.
Yeah.
Again, right around the 50-yard line. And that's what led to the Eagles
getting that field goal. Yeah.
Scoring the touchdown to end the half.
Oh, right. At the end of
that half. For the 17-point lead now.
Yep.
So it was a 14-point swing on that, and they got the ball to start the second half. And I think that we might have even scored on that next drive. It was it basically the route was on by the beginning of the third quarter.
The third quarter. Third quarter, you guys scored a field goal with 8 minutes left, and then a touchdown with 2 minutes left. A.J. Brown 20-yard pass from Tanner McKee.
Because then Kenny Pickett ended up getting knocked out of that game.
Yeah.
That was also when Barkley started eating.
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah. And then at the very end, in the fourth quarter, well, not the very end, but in the fourth quarter, Devontae Smith had a 25-yard pass for another touchdown to make it 41-7 to end the game.
Ooh, it was that bad.
Yeah, the Eagles had 376 total yards, 197 passing yards, 179 rushing yards, and they averaged 6.2 yards per play, which is awesome.
With a backup and a third string quarterback.
Yeah, and
now, mind you, Dallas had a backup quarterback too.
But our backup quarterback has been backing up quarterbacking for 4 weeks now. So
yes.
And the Cowboys total yards 268, 141 passing, 127 rushing, and only 4.5 yards per play. So so that was last week, and the good news is, at least for me, that the Cowboys were so bad that nobody even bothers to make fun of me at school. They just know that they're just
they
bad.
just feel sorry.
They just feel sorry for him. One of the other teachers did send me a text and said, how are you doing, buddy? Are you okay? And I was like, this season was done weeks ago. Like, it doesn't even matter that they lost 41-7 in this game. This season was done. I think I went shopping in the second half of this game because I was like, we're done. I'm not even bothering watching this anymore.
We were. I was out at actually where we're having our 10th anniversary show. Rob, hopefully you're going to be able to make it for that. Our Corner Pub Sports 10th anniversary show at Sandy's Beef and Ale.
Okay.
So we ended up going there. Had a fantastic roast pork sandwich with they have a sweet and spicy sauce.
Okay.
That's just phenomenal. It's
all right.
It's my go-to. I do have to get one of the roast beef sandwiches again because I haven't had one of theirs in a while. I keep going to the roast pork because it's so good.
Because it's so good.
Their roast beef is really good too.
It's really good. Jay asked he asked me, who do I like going to the Super Bowl and who do I think will win? I want to see the Lions and the Bills. That's what I want to see. I have a feeling somehow it's going to be Kansas City. And if the Eagles, if Hurts comes back, I think it'll be Kansas City and the Eagles. Because your defense is good. Saquon is just unstoppable. And when you have Saquon, and then if you have Hurts running around, and then, he can throw as well, and A.J. Brown, like, you guys did it right. You guys got all the right parts. You put them all together, and we could have had Derrick Henry, and instead we got Ezekiel Elliott, and so whatever.
Yeah, how about that?
Yeah.
Derrick Henry has been phenomenal this year.
He has.
Now, mind you, obviously, it's you wonder how he would run behind Dallas's offensive line.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I think I'm most disappointed in is all the years of Romo, we had the best offensive line in football, if not the best, top 3 offensive lines.
Right.
And this year's offensive line, like no quarterback that we put back there has any time. Like I'm watching, he's got no. Even like today, I was watching the Tampa Bay game. Baker Mayfield could have knitted a sweater. He had so much time on some of the plays. He's just standing back there, waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting, and like multiple seconds have gone by. Where the Cowboys, it's like snap. 3 steps and get rid of it. Otherwise, somebody's going to be in your face.
But again, this is where it all goes back to what the Cowboys did well to stay relevant in the early 2000s into the 2010s. Into almost like the 2020, and you were seeing it kind of fading out a little bit at the end of last year. Was they drafted, if I'm not mistaken, 5 offensive linemen or 4 or 5 offensive linemen in consecutive years in the first round.
Yeah.
They built their offensive line through the draft.
Mm-hmm.
And then after they built the offensive line through the draft in those 5 years, they then ignored the position for like 7-8 years.
Yeah, because they said we have them.
We got it. We're good. We got a top asset. And the difference is what Howie did is he said, yeah, we have a top offensive line as well, but let's continue to grab guys in the second and third round. We're not going to use our first round pick, but let's continue to grab guys first or second round. We got Jeff Stoutland, the best offensive line coach in all football. We'll groom these guys from here. And then as these guys either leave, get better deals, we can't pay everybody. We'll pay these guys. These are premier. This guy is really good, but not quite premier. We're going to have to let him walk. But we've groomed the next guy to take his place.
Yep.
So then you have Cam Jurgens that comes in, takes over for the I can't remember the guy's name that ended up leaving, but took over for a really good player. And then the next year they drafted this Tyler Steen guy to take the place of that guy. The year before that, it was Landon Dickerson to take the place of Brooks or something. So for the 3-4 years, they grabbed guys in that early second round, third round type time frame, and just waited, had them sit for a year.
Yeah.
Had them like basically redshirted them or had them as a backup for a year behind like a Pro Bowl type caliber player.
Mm-hmm.
The Pro Bowl caliber player leaves, retires, whatever. They slide him in. He becomes a Pro Bowl type player. The next year, they drafted somebody else while that guy became a Pro Bowl player, and he's waiting. All of a sudden, another guy leaves. Okay, he steps in, plays guard. Kelsey leaves. The guy that played guard, Cam Jurgens, slides in. He was his protege to take over from that. Now they have Tyler Steen. Tyler Steen may not be ready. They recognize that. They wait and wait and wait. And Mikael Becton is just sitting out there. Didn't work out with the Jets for some reason. Eagles take a chance on him. They ended up, coming out smelling like a rose. The guy was phenomenal. He's on a 1-year deal. He's not coming back next year. But we have Tyler Steen, and we're going to draft somebody next year to take the place of like a Landon Dickerson. Like they've churned these guys over and over, and that is why the Eagles continue to be really good offensively.
Yeah, and like you said, the Cowboys on the other end of that, they did that for 4 years, and then they said, okay, now we're going elsewhere. And
now
then,
you started drafting Zeke.
Yeah.
Now you drafted CeeDee Lamb. Now you drafted Micah Parsons. Good picks. But were they the biggest need, or were they the best for your team at the time, or could you have worked something out differently?
Differently, yeah. And even like you said, even if they picked an offensive guy in the second or the third round, where he's still going to be a good player, maybe not the best, but he's going to be a solid player in there. And instead, we didn't do that, and now our offensive line seems to be not able to hold anybody back. So that was 2 weeks ago, and then this week's games, whatever. I mean, you guys beat the Giants. Congratulations. The Giants have lost every single game to the NFC East teams.
How about that?
Yes,
like I said, I mean, I honestly was actively rooting for the Giants to win that game. It doesn't matter to the Eagles.
Right.
They got their third stringers in.
Yeah, and the Eagles
change momentum.
The Eagles weren't going anywhere. They weren't dropping anywhere. They
weren't dropping. Yeah, it was as meaningless of a game as it could possibly be.
And you guys didn't play any starters. Like the names of the people that did stuff for you today you got that's a Giants. Here we go. Sorry. Eagles, Tanner McKee.
Except for Dallas Goedert.
Right.
Yeah.
Tanner McKee, Will Shipley, Kenneth Gainwell, your two rushers, your two running backs. Jahan Dotson, 94 yards. Dallas Goedert.
Oh, he had a good game. How about that?
Yeah, he had 94 yards, 11 targets, 7 receptions. Dallas Goedert, he came back from injury, so good.
Yeah, so they wanted to get him just to knock off some rust.
Yeah, so he got 6 targets, 4 catches for 55 yards. You got Will Shipley, Anaya Smith, Johnny Wilson, Grant Calcaterra. Yeah.
Calcaterra. Yeah. He's actually a decent backup tight end that played well in Goddard's absence.
Right, but like you said, these are all the backup players. You know what I mean? Like,
Anaya Smith, I didn't even know. I forgot he was on the team.
Yeah, he had 4.
We drafted him or something. Like, yeah, he was.
He had 4 catches, 35 yards, and a touchdown. So, And E.J. Jenkins had 1 catch for 7 yards and a touchdown. So like these are the names that are showing up for you guys. It's like when we do remember that game 10 years from now, you're going to be like, I have no idea who any of those players are. But you still managed to win. That just goes to show what the deal is with the Giants. I mean, not that whatever. You had all backups in all the glory positions and still wound up winning 20-13. But then again, the Giants were I feel like the Giants coach was like, you know what? I'm probably not going to be here next year, so I'm going to lay it all out now, see what I can do. He was trying a bunch of different trick plays, if you would. They did a fake
Did you
punt.
watch? You watched more of the game than I did. I honestly, I didn't even watch. Like I was busy doing other things. I had some, a honey-do list. I treated this like a bit of a bye week.
Yeah. Well, I was watching in the beginning because the Cowboys weren't on, I was thinking the Cowboys were playing at 4:00 because they weren't on CBS or on NBC. So I was like, oh, they must be on at 4:00. So I was watching the first half of the Eagles game. Then I had to take my daughter to work, and then I went and got a haircut. So then while I'm doing that, I was like,
so you got a haircut, and then you covered up.
And then I covered up. Yeah, my basement's cold. But then as I'm watching the red zone in the car, or have the red zone on in the car, and then they're cutting back to the Cowboys, and I was like, oh, they're playing now also. I took this week as a bye week as well. But yeah, so then I'm getting all the highlights, which, for the Cowboys aren't any highlights, but whatever. And then Corner Pub Sports says the fake punt going for it on 4th down over and over. He was definitely going for it all. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, all the different things that he was like, you know what, whatever. We're not doing anything. If anything, we've been practicing all of these trick plays, this fake punt play. We've been practicing going forward on 4th down all season. We haven't had any opportunity to do it, so might as well do it now. It's the last game of the season. All this work.
Dabble's losing his job anyway.
Yeah, he's losing his job anyway. So go out with guns blazing. So Jay says the Giants have a secret weapon coming in to coach next year. I hope it's Deion Sanders and he's going there and he's not coming to Dallas.
That would be great.
Oh
my God, he's going to be terrible.
Yes, I want it to be terrible for the Giants, not terrible for the Cowboys. Please go.
Draft his son and have him coach, and that would be the best thing ever.
That would be the best thing
I
ever.
would hate to see him because I just can't stand the guy.
Right, but I would love to see the train wreck that it would be. So yes.
I'd love to see his stupid face as he was getting blown out like week in and week out, and it would be a total disaster. It'd be phenomenal.
I remember the first year that he was coaching, and like the first 3 games, they were playing like Division II teams or Division I AA teams, whatever. And
when he went to Colorado,
when he went to Colorado, yeah. And like they're winning by like 40, 50 points, and he's like, like, look at me, look how good I am. And then when they played a real Division I team and they lost, and then suddenly he was like, meh, meh, meh. I'm like, you are such a whatever. So yeah, like I can't wait to see him. I would love to see him on the Giants and just be horrible, just be awful.
Yeah.
It would be amazing. So yeah, so you guys won, the Giants. I'm pretty sure they did not win.
They didn't get the first pick overall.
No, but I also don't think that they won a home game all season. I'm pretty sure they lost at home every game.
Now this was actually in Philly.
This was today was in Philly, but I'm pretty sure that their home record, they have 0 wins at home. But yeah,
so they won all 3 of their games on the road.
I think so. I could be wrong.
Okay.
But I know
I'll believe you
because there was a post. This is how I know. There was a stupid Facebook post that said every professional team has won a home game except for the Cowboys because the Cowboys lost the first 4 home games or whatever. So then I fact checked it and it said, oh no, the Giants haven't won a home game yet either. So week 1 they lost. Week 2 they lost. They won at Cleveland, lost. They won at Seattle, lost. They won. They won at home against Indianapolis Colts. Week 17. In week 17 they won.
Last week was their first. Okay.
Last week was
that's
their
the one
first.
that screwed up their.
Yeah.
Yeah, because before that, I did see the stupid. Now that you reminded me, I did see the stupid Facebook post prior to last week where it said that the Mets won a game in New York
Before,
later
yeah,
before the yeah
later in the
yeah
2004, and then the Giants have, yeah. So,
yeah.
yep. So yeah, so they did it by beating the Colts last week, and then the Cowboys this week. I was watching like I said, I was watching Red Zone because it wasn't on the regular. They surprisingly, it wasn't the game of the week. The Cowboys Washington game wasn't the game of the week. And
Yeah, they had some weird games on. I mean, there was a obviously the Eagles game. Well, maybe it was the game of the week on CBS, but they obviously in the local um,
yeah,
for the local teams they were going to play the Eagles game. But you know what? It's interesting because after that game ended, CBS went to the Tampa.
oh,
Um, or
um,
no, they went to the Atlanta game, I think, and
Atlanta,
then
Carolina.
yeah, the Atlanta Carolina game. So they didn't even go to the Washington Dallas game. So I
Yeah,
don't know.
I don't know, but so this game is another one. Like as I was listening to it, as getting some highlights every once in a while. The Cowboys were winning the whole time. They were winning 3-0 at the end of the first. The first second quarter they scored another field goal. Third quarter they scored another field goal. So they were winning at halftime. They were winning 6-3. Then Washington scored a touchdown. Then the Cowboys scored a field goal after that to take it 10-9. They were losing 10-9. Then the Cowboys had the lead because fourth quarter field goal, yet another field goal by Brandon Aubrey. This guy should be. Is he an all-star? He needs to be because.
So yeah, we'll. I want to talk about that for a second. So you continue with that, and we'll talk about the Pro Bowl in a second.
Okay. And then Washington scores a touchdown. Then the Cowboys score a touchdown. Washington punt. Cowboys punt. Washington touchdown. End of the fourth quarter. And that's how it ends with, at the end of the fourth quarter, Washington had a 14-play, 3-minute and 15-second drive, 81-yard drive at the end to get a touchdown. Marcus Mariota pass touchdown to T. McLaurin. I don't know who that is. For
Terry McLaurin.
Yeah, okay, for a 5-yard touchdown. So every single time. Oh no! Washington in the beginning of the fourth quarter had 70-yard drive. The Cowboys had a 76-yard drive for a field goal, and this is what the problem is with the Cowboys: 53-yard drive, field goal, -1 yards to get a field goal, so they got a turnover. 19 yards on a punt, 12 yards on a punt, 84-yard drive, field goal. So the Cowboys, like I said, are great between the 30-yard line and the 30-yard line. They were able to drive the ball until the red zone. They're the worst team in the NFL, I think, in the red zone this year.
Okay.
And all they are able to do is get field goal after field goal after field goal. I looked in for fantasy points anyway. Brandon Aubrey, before today's game, was second in kicker points.
Boswell probably?
Yeah, to Boswell from Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is the number 1 kicker, and then Brandon Aubrey was the number 2 kicker. But also, if you're looking at fantasy-wise, Brandon Aubrey was able to kick the most over 50-yard field goals this season of any quarterback, which is the only thing that I have a fear for you Eagles fans is your kicker is having a very hard time kicking over 50 yards. So you guys definitely need to get it.
He missed a 39-yarder this week.
He did. And maybe the Cowboys will let Brandon Aubrey go and the Eagles can pick him up for the playoffs and then he'll feel what it's like to be on a winning team because he's the only one scoring for the Cowboys. He's the only one scoring. And it's frustrating and I feel bad for him because he's just like, oh, you want me to kick a 63-yarder? Sure, I'll go kick a 63-yarder. Do you think you guys could get any closer to the end zone or maybe, I don't know, get a touchdown once in a while? But no. If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have even had the 7 wins that we have. So yeah, so I don't know. So he should be a Pro Bowler, and then I'll let you go off and explain to me why he's not.
Yeah, no, I am not disagreeing with you that Aubrey. I totally agree that Aubrey should be a Pro Bowler. Um, just talking about the Pro Bowl, I think that the Ravens had the most, maybe followed by Detroit, um, and the Eagles had 6 Pro Bowlers.
And the Cowboys have
A
4 or
ton,
5. Yeah, had too many.
5.
Yeah, too many. Way too many. And I'm a
Yeah.
Cowboys
So, and
fan.
that was my point. The Eagles have 3 losses on the season. Um, completely dominated, are arguably the best team in the NFC, uh, arguably the second best team in the league, definitely a top 4 or 5 team. They get 6 Pro Bowlers. Dallas is an under 500 team. They're in the bottom half of the league, yet they get 1 less Pro Bowler.
Yeah, no,
Looking through the list, yeah. And then looking through the list, okay, Aubrey deserves it.
CD
Their
Lamb.
punt returner,
Yeah.
Turpin, I guess.
Yeah.
He gets in. So it's 2 special teamers. You got to take that with consideration. CD Lamb didn't have a CD Lamb type year, but probably was a top 4 or 5 receiver.
I think
Jefferson, Nakua, Evans, AJ Brown. I would think that maybe all 4 of those.
Yeah. I think CD Lamb got in because if he had a quarterback throwing to him, he would have gotten a lot more touches and whatever.
I will tell you this. He played most of the year with a bad shoulder.
Yep.
And he went out there and played every week. And
he had 1,000 yards receiving.
He had 1,000 yards receiving. So I'm okay with that. I'm guessing Micah got in as well, and that's probably deserving as well. And I don't know who the 5th guy was that got in.
I'm looking at the list, NFC Pro Bowl rosters, and I'm looking CeeDee Lamb, we just talked about him. Tyler Smith, offensive guard.
So Tyler Smith got in. I don't know if
Smith,
that's deserving or not. That's probably sounds like more of a name recognition type.
And he's on America's team. He's really good. Yeah. And then, like you said, Micah Parsons, Brandon Aubrey, and Cavante Turpin on return special teams. So,
right.
While they have 5, 2 of them are special teams, and Micah Parsons is worthy of it. I think the only one that's really not, I don't know. CeeDee Lamb. I think if he was on the Vikings or on the Lions or the Eagles, something like that, he would probably have 1,500, 2,000 yards receiving.
Sure.
So I think he's getting on name recognition, and I think also the Tyler Smith, the offensive guard, is getting on name recognition. I think if anyone,
I would say that's. I'm not. CeeDee Lamb getting over 1,000 yards, he probably deserved to get on the team, but it would have. You could make an argument one way or the other for it, I would say.
Right.
The Eagles, meanwhile, they're littered with first and second and third alternates. The list is enormous.
Yeah.
I don't even remember who made it. I hope AJ Brown made it.
Landon Dickerson made it. Saquon Barkley. Not sure who that guy is.
Never heard of him he's before. Not bad.
He's it says that he's a running back, but I haven't heard anything about him. So I guess maybe other people know who he is. Cam Jurgens.
Cam Jurgens, by the way, who replaced Kelsey at center.
Yeah. Jalen Carter.
Right.
Zach Bond.
Zach Bond, linebacker.
Did a
phenomenal job this year.
And I think that's all of them, unless it's on defense. No, that's
Yeah, I think you missed Lane Johnson.
Maybe.
I think Lane Johnson was on there as well.
Jalen Carter, did I say him?
Yeah, Jalen Carter.
Okay.
Jalen,
Juergens.
Saquon, and then there were
Oh
three
yeah,
offensive
Landon
linemen.
Dickerson, Lane Johnson. Yes, there you go, Lane
Yep.
Johnson. Sorry, yep,
And Zach Bond. So
and
yeah,
Zach
so
Vaughn.
that
Yeah,
means that AJ Brown did not make the Pro Bowl. He's an
no,
alternate.
and which is crazy because he's awesome, so he should be on
Right.
there.
Yeah.
So
So he was a snub, and then Jordan Mailata, who was a fourth offensive lineman, was a snub. They're both first alternates, and then there's probably a couple other first alternates as well. Quinyon Mitchell, perhaps, was another one that might have been a
okay,
snub. Rookie cornerback that gave up like one touchdown all year.
okay. They don't have the alternates on this
Yeah,
page that I'm looking at. So,
that's fine.
but yeah,
Yeah. So, but it's pretty wild that America's team got one less than
then yeah, at 7 and whatever, not in the playoffs.
7 and 10.
7 wins,
is, yeah.
7 and 10, not in the playoffs, and they get that many. So, yeah, I don't know. If you're gonna have that many Pro Bowlers on your team, you better be good. That's that's where I'm looking at it also. So I don't know.
Yeah.
But
Which is also part of the argument where I know Joe Burrow is getting a lot of love for MVP consideration, and numbers wise, I can't argue with that.
right.
But your team has to make the playoffs to be an MVP.
Yeah.
That's just I think that almost has to be a prerequisite. Like if your team does not make the playoffs, you're not even like
your name is just crossed out. Yeah, you need to get into the playoffs because what's the point of having an MVP on a team that can't even make the playoffs? Like, what's the point of that? So, all right. So, real fast, the playoffs. We know Detroit, Philadelphia, Tampa Bay, Rams are the 1, 2, 3, 4 teams. Minnesota, Detroit, one of those two will be 1, the other one will be 5. Washington settled into the 6, and Green Bay settled into the 7. So the Green Bay will play Philadelphia sometime next week. The Giants finished off the worst record in the NFC, but not overall. They have 3-14. Then the Saints at 5-12. Carolina 5-12. Carolina won today.
yes.
Chicago won today. 5-12. San Francisco is another bust team. Weren't they in the Super Bowl last year?
They were. They actually took the Chiefs to overtime. That was a really good game last year.
Yeah.
The Chiefs San Fran game was really good. The Chiefs Eagles game was really good as well.
Yeah. They were both amazing games. And 1 year later, just like the Cowboys, best record in the NFC last year, or NFC East at least. I don't remember if it's overall.
It's that Super Bowl loser hangover.
Yeah, it totally is. Arizona, Atlanta, and Seattle all did not make it in the NFC. And in the what's going on here? Too many things. On the AFC, real fast, Kansas City's got the 1. Buffalo is the 2. Were they just resting everybody in Buffalo today? Do you know?
I would think I can't imagine why they wouldn't.
Okay.
Kansas City was.
Okay, yeah.
I didn't even pay attention to what was going on with the Buffalo game this week.
I just know their normal QB was not in, and I was just hoping that he was just resting and he wasn't injured because that would stink.
Yeah, no, everybody. There was a lot of guys that rested this week.
Yeah, Baltimore 3, Houston 4. LA Chargers in the 5 seed, Pittsburgh in the 6 seed, and Denver in the 7th seed. So
Denver did win today, to get into
the 7th seed. And then Cincinnati was the first eliminated. Tennessee 3-14, Cleveland 3-14. Cleveland was supposed to be a good team this year, and they went back to being typical Cleveland of the 2000s, which is just unfortunate.
I'm not even sure if it's I think you can go back to the 90s for Cleveland.
New England already fired their coach, or will fire their coach, which is where this coaching carousel is going to start. I wanted to talk about that briefly because we don't have many officials yet, but New England.
I heard somebody else that fired their coach yesterday.
Did Indianapolis fire their coach? I feel like they did. Maybe not.
Maybe. I remember there being one. I don't remember exactly who it was. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. So New England's coach is already gone. I'm sure another half dozen. Now, Mike McCarthy's contract is up, and I'm assuming
his contract is up. He was a lame duck coach this whole year.
He was the whole year. He was a lame duck coach. Jay Pars.
So he's not even going to get fired. They're just going to
They're just not going to rehire him.
They're just not going to re-sign him. And It's just going to be kind of a okay.
Yeah, they're just going to say, "Oh, thanks. Your contract's up. They're gonna. Did you in Office Space? We fixed the glitch. They're gonna just fix the glitch. Yeah. They're just not gonna. He's just not gonna get paid anymore. He's gonna come back and he's gonna be like, I didn't get my paycheck, and they're gonna be like, yeah, go see HR. HR sent me to you, and no, will you go see? Yeah, they're just gonna fix the glitch, and then suddenly he's gonna be in his office, and somebody's just gonna be moving in, and he's gonna be like, what is happening? Why are you here?
Yeah.
But rumors on the Facebook were saying that he wants to go to the Bears, which would be interesting to see if the Bears take him or not.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that will happen, if that's the case or not, if they're going to take him. I don't know. I mean, look, the guy had three 10-win seasons in a row, or 12-win seasons in a row, whatever we had the past 3 years. And then this year was a bad year. But even with those those 3 years that we had all those wins, we still weren't able to put it together in the playoffs. So
yeah, I don't know if you got a playoff win with him, did you?
We got one. Yeah, we got
did
one.
Win.
Yeah.
One. Okay. That's right. You got the one, and then wasn't it the next week when you played San Fran?
Well, when they played, we didn't, and they just destroyed us.
Well, right. That was kind of looked a lot similar to what the Eagles just did to the Cowboys last week.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, the Eagles kept playing, and the Cowboys stopped. So, I do want to do we've been talking for a long time. I do want to do this day in history. Goes all the way back to January 2nd, 2011. Dallas Cowboys at the Philadelphia Eagles. There was another one later on, but that was in 81, we played each other in the NFC Championship game, the 2010 NFC Championship game in January 20th, the 81 championship team from the 1980 season. And
right. That was the one that the Eagles beat the Cowboys.
Yep, to go to play the Raiders. Yep. So,
Raiders, yep.
But this one was very similar to what happened 2 weeks ago. The Cowboys had a 6-10 record, and the Eagles had a 10-6 record going into this game. The Cowboys did wind up winning a whopping 14-13 game. No team scored in the first quarter. Both teams scored a touchdown in the second quarter. No team scored in the third quarter. And then we both scored in the fourth quarter. And the Eagles. I
feel like I remember this game being meaningless for the Eagles.
Yes. When you see who was playing, you can tell that it was meaningless for the Eagles. And also meaningless. I mean, the Cowboys were 6-10. We weren't going into the playoffs. You guys were already 10-6 and probably locked up with where you were.
Yeah, I think we were 10-5, and the game ended up. We either had the division locked up, or whatever it was. We couldn't do better or worse.
Yeah, in the fourth quarter, the Cowboys scored a touchdown. The Eagles scored 2 field goals. So, Eagles 4-yard pass to Chad Hall from Kevin Cobb was your second quarter touchdown. The Cowboys' second quarter touchdown, DeMarcus Ware, was a 17-yard defensive fumble return for us to score. And then in the fourth quarter, David Akers kicked a 43-yard field goal, followed up with a 22-yard field goal by David Akers. And then finally, the Cowboys scored a touchdown with 55 seconds left in the game. A 4-yard pass from Stephen McGee to Jason Witten. Stephen McGee to Jason Witten. So DeMarcus Ware, I know David Akers too as a kicker, but this was first downs. Cowboys had 14, Eagles had 14. Rushing yards to touchdowns, 34 rushes for 159 yards for the Cowboys. Eagles had 121 yards rushing. Cowboys had 127 yards passing. The Eagles had 162 yards passing. Cowboys had 2 sacks for 14 yards. Eagles had 5 sacks for 39 yards. Fumbles lost. So Stephen McGee was the Cowboys quarterback. I don't even know who he is. So, in Marion Barber the third was Cowboys, I guess, rushing. He had 3 rushes for 3 yards. Felix Jones had 81 yards rushing for the Cowboys. And Tashard Choice had 20 yards rushing for the Cowboys. Receiving, the Cowboys, Jason Witten had 46 yards. Metellus Bennett had 11 yards. And Miles Austin had 62 yards receiving. I remember that.
Miles Austin.
Yeah. For the Eagles, Kevin Kolb, your quarterback, had 162 yards with a touchdown and 3 interceptions and 5 sacks. Jerome Harrison, 99 yards rushing for the Eagles. Eldry Buckley had 11 yards rushing. And Chad Hall had 2 yards rushing. And 84 yards receiving with a touchdown. Clay Harbor had 32 yards receiving, and Jason Avant had 21 yards receiving. You had
there you go.
Riley Cooper, I remember that name. He had 5 yards receiving, and Owen Smith finished it up with 3 yards receiving. And the kickers, you had Chad Hall as a punt returner. Yeah, punt returner. And the Cowboys had Bryson McCann as a punt returner. I'm looking for, here's kicking. David Bueller was the Cowboys kicker, 2 extra points and 1 field goal attempt. He must not have made it. David Akers had 1 extra point and 2 field goals made. So those were the 2 kickers, and my punter was Matt McBrayer. He had
I do remember that. Yeah, I remember that name.
357 yards punting on 8 punts. He had 8 punts.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
Your guy, Servio Roca.
Oh, okay.
He had 7 punts for 268 yards. Now, this is a game.
Like a snooze fest.
This is a game in January at Lincoln Financial Field at 4:15 on Sunday, January 2nd. And there was 15 punts in the game. Can you imagine? It's a meaningless game to start with, and then all you're watching are 3-and-outs and punts and punts and punts and punts.
My wife asked me about obviously today's game being similar. My wife, who's sort of somehow finally possibly getting into football a little bit,
okay,
is asking questions about it, and she's like, "Well, if the game's meaningless, why are they even playing it?" It's like, well, I mean, there's draft pick seeding that comes into play depending on how good or bad a team is, and I'm like, but really, I think it comes down to money.
It definitely comes down to money.
Why do they wear so many different jerseys? I'm like, well, the same reason.
Same reason. It's all about money.
Yeah. What is it about this? What is it about that? I'm like, well, if they wear the black jerseys, it means they could sell.
They can sell the black jerseys.
Sell the
It's all about money.
Like, and I'm like, they're still selling the tickets, and if they cancel the game, they got to refund it, and they're not doing that.
Nope.
It's sold out already.
Yeah. It's about money coming in and money going out. Corner Pub Sports asked what year was that game. Was in 2011, so it was the 2010 season. And then Jay said, I remember that game. And then Corner Pub Sports says, I remember all those cowboy backs. But yeah, football, professional sports are not about entertainment. It's all about money. It's, why do they wear so many jerseys? Why do they have the city select jerseys for the Phillies now? Because that's another jersey that they can sell. Why does the NHL have their 3rd alternate jerseys? So you'll buy 3 different jerseys. It's all about money, and they can't cancel the game because they are contracted to have the stadium. All those workers at the stadium are expected to get paid, and they're not going to pay them and not take in the money from the revenue. So even though it's a meaningless game, and it's the same thing, I don't know, you don't have season tickets, but my friends who have season tickets, the preseason games cost the same.
They pay this. Yep, I know.
As the regular season. So it's like, wait a minute. And especially now with the shorter preseason, like you don't see any of the real starters at all. They're all just trying to figure out who else is going to be backing them up. So it's all the backup players. but they're charging you the same price. You know, it's still $125 a ticket or whatever it is for the last seat in the stadium.
And
so,
you give it to your buddy so they can take their kid to a real football
so they can go to a real football game.
This one.
Yep. It's at least the preseason ones. It's warm. This one, like everybody was like, I'm just giving away my tickets to this game. Who wants tickets to this game? Because it means nothing. You're not going to see any of the Eagle starters, and it's cold AF out there. So we're not going.
Yep.
So, all right. Well, we talked a lot. I did want to talk a little bit more about the coaching carousel, and I had some other things listed, but we went off and off and off about how bad the Cowboys are. So I think we should call it for now, and when we get to the playoffs, we can talk about those other things.
Let's still set up to, even though the regular season's over, since at least one of our teams, and this is awkward, one of our teams is still playing. So I think, and I would imagine 2 weeks from now that'll still be the case, especially depending on when the next game is. But we should definitely plan to meet up 2 weeks. So let's table whatever couple of the carousel. The coaching carousel is not going to be gone by
the coaching
2 weeks,
carousel will explode in the next 2 weeks as well. So the Cowboys backup quarterback today that they had playing, by the way, hit Trey Lance.
Trey Lance, right? Yeah, the early draft pick from San Fran.
Yeah, so that's what I'm gonna try and work on for the next show is all the top 5 draft picks for the past 5 years. Where are they? What has happened to them and whatever. Because Trey Lance was a number 3 overall draft pick, and he looked like he could have been a last round draft pick the way he was playing today. So, we can talk about all that good stuff and see where all these people are, and who did a good job of drafting and who drafted duds, and whatever the case may be from there. So.
Yeah, that sounds fun.
Yeah, so that'll be our main topic for the next show. That and the Eagles continuing their playoff.
Yeah, we only have one game to recap. Well,
yeah.
1 or 2 games to recap since we won't have the Cowboys to talk about.
No, not at all. They'll be talking. Well, we can talk about their golf game because I'm sure they'll be working on that over the next 2 weeks. So, Jay said enjoyed the show. Jay, we enjoyed you being here, commenting with us.
Thanks, Jay.
Same thing for Corner Pub Sports.
Corner Pub, yep.
I did get my book. I did get my book. I just have to now actually open it and start reading it. So,
there you go.
We do care. What is it?
No one likes us.
No one likes us, and we do care. So, check that book out, Sean. From Corner Pub, where you hear Mike more often on the Corner Pub Sports on Friday nights over at Sean's basement.
And for what it's worth, I am in the book.
There you go.
Hopefully that doesn't, detract people and is more enticing than detracting, but,
Yeah, so there we go. So I'm going to read your section first. That way I can tell you all about it next week.
There you go.
I'll find all the spelling errors in it and tell you that you messed this up and whatever.
I'm pretty sure that Sean cleaned it up and then had an editor clean it up. So, yeah.
But you didn't talk about how awesome the Cowboys are. That's the problem. That's where your mistakes are.
No, but you will enjoy it because it was rehashing the worst loss that the Philadelphia Eagles had in in the history of me watching, and I went in 4 pages of depth in the book about that game and kind of what transpired and our feelings as it was transpiring. Sean kind of went. A lot of his were a little bit shorter and really more on the emotion sides of it, but I really mine was laser focused and pretty long-winded on one particular game. So it was different writing styles, and you get to see the difference between the two. So it's that in and of itself I thought was pretty interesting.
All right. Well, I think next week you're going to have to read that chapter from the book to us. It's going to be a book reading section where you read all 4 pages about the worst loss in Eagles history.
We're scrapping everything that we just talked about.
That's right. I just want to hear you talk about how bad the Eagles were in that one game. So All right. Well, on that note, I think we're done. And you can say "Go Birds," and I'll just say, "Hey, let's go golfing."
Yeah, go Birds and Cowboys fans and Rob, your team sucks.
We do. We are not in the playoffs. I can't
I think
even.
I've said that before.
I wish we would have started this podcast last year. That's all I have to say. So, yeah. All right. Well, on that note, I had a horrible season, and you did not. So, we'll be back for the playoffs in 2 weeks. So.